In terms of, if I can just table from AOPA, this is the General Aviation Organisation, and perhaps to provide a copy to the witnesses as well, to you, Chair, and to the, if I could see to table it. It's
so
from
we'll call it, just before you do, I've just started a practice to see that this is appropriate to find in Hansard. So the document is one that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages with schematics and graphs. The first page is headed pilot numbers, and the last page is US General Aviation pilot numbers for identification on Hansard. So that's tabled.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Oh, sorry, just 1 minute. Is there any objections from the committee in relation to the tabling? And this is always a problem because they haven't had the benefit of seeing the document.
So, I'm sorry for that. And look, I don't mind if it's marked for identification at this stage, and the committee could make a subsequent decision.
No objection.
Yeah.
No objection. So it's so tabled. So proceed.
And I think has a copy been provided? Can a copy be provided to Mr. Carmody?
Of course.
At the previous estimates, your predecessor, I had an interchange with your predecessor, Mr. Skidmore, about the implementation of ADSB, whether there were any plans to delay it, given the concerns that have been raised by the general aviation community. Just a few hours ago, I spoke to Dick Smith, who is a former chairman of CASA, who's currently overseas, and Mr. Smith said, quote, "You are unintentionally destroying general aviation in this country with the ADSB requirement," and I got his permission to give him a direct quote, and I don't think Mr. Smith minces his words as a general rule, as a former chairman of CASA, and he refers to a $30 million figure for the implementation, which I think CASA has set out for the cost of implementing ADSB for general aviation. Is that your understanding?
I'm not. I don't understand the figure, but one of my colleagues might know the figure. I would make the point, if I may, Senator, the ADSB mandate for implementation was announced 5 years ago, yes. 6 years ago. This has been a journey of quite a long period of time, and a journey in the interests of aviation safety.
Who was the chairman 5 years ago?
I think I'm not even sure that there was a chairman at the time the fitment was announced. Mr. Murdoch might know. It was prior to the board.
It was prior to the board being appointed by the current government in 2013.
Okay.
So this process
but
has
Mr.
been underway
Smith
for
was
a
not
long
the
time.
chairman of CASA at the time.
No,
that was well before that.
That's right.
Was
so just in case.
Yep.
I just wanted to check.
No.
No, it's a very good question, Chair. It's a very, very relevant question. Basically, the interchange I had with Mr. Skidmore back at the previous estimates indicates that Mr. Skidmore felt that there wasn't a need to revisit it. My question is this: given the graphs I've shown you from AOPA, general aviation pilot numbers have actually gone down 34% from 2000 2001 to 2014-15 and declining fairly sharply. Avgas consumption, which is indicative of the use of general aviation, has gone down 35% from 1996 to 2015. Initial aircraft registrations, actual has gone, is after a spike, it is now has been declining for the last couple of years quite markedly. Cancellation of aircraft registrations has seen a 51% increase from 2001 to 2014-15. And by contrast, US general aviation pilot numbers have seen a 4% increase. Now, I'm not sure what the relevance of that is, because there might be a whole range of other factors in the US. But can I just put to you, has CASA received representations from the General Aviation Committee and representative groups that they're saying we're not against ADSB per se, but by bringing it forward prior to the US having it will mean a massive increase in costs, that if it was delayed 12 months after ADSB was required in the US, it means that they're going to get cheaper. There'll be a drop in prices as with any new technology, and they could transition much better. Is that something that CASA has considered, given that we are seeing some quite alarming declines in general aviation in this country and its affordability?
Senator, a lot of questions there. If I can,
Sure.
if I can try and deal with a couple of them. I note the point on declining general aviation pilots, and I've seen the statistics. The statistics don't show the growth in recreational pilots, which is very significant. General aviation is characterised by quite old aircraft, and as a consequence, the market has actually changed in the last 10 to 15 years. Recreational pilots flying two-seater aircraft have increased exponentially. So taking the figures in one hit, it's only looking at one segment of the market. That's one point I'd like to make. In terms of the mandate for fitment of ADS-B, there are many operators over the last 5 years, individuals and organisations that have made a commitment to fit ADS-B. They've fitted it on the basis of the mandate that's in place and the fact that the mandate is coming in. There are a number of operators who would therefore not thank me and would come back at us as a regulator to say, you are making it less safe and you are deferring fitment when we've already made our investment in accordance with your direction. So we've made very clear directions for the mandate up until 2017. They've invested very significantly in many cases in this. So that's a second aspect. And the third aspect, if I may say, is that there is nothing to suggest that the prices will decrease as fitment increases in the United States and elsewhere, and in fact there might be more competition for equipment and the prices may not decrease. It may be more difficult to get equipment closer to the time. The view from one group of people is that it will get cheaper if we wait until afterwards. The challenge for us is that ADS-B is a safer technology because it indicates where every aircraft is. That's the safety case we're working towards. My final point on the United States...
This is not all aircraft, because, and with apologies, Senator Sterle,
okay.
ADS-B stands for Automatic Dependent Surveillance Broadcast.
Senator Zern's just a point, I don't mean to interrupt, but you're coming towards the end of
I am.
Very close?
It is too.
Very close. Can I just say that this doesn't apply, but if aircraft fly below cloud cover visually, if aircraft don't have ADS-B, they have to fly visually,
Yeah,
correct?
you can fly visually, that's correct.
Right?
That's correct.
And the point that Dick Smith has made to me just again today is that poses a risk where pilots, there's never been a case of a mid-air collision in this country involving aircraft in clouds, is that right?
I did see a quote to that effect. I assume it's correct. I've heard that.
Right. But he's expressed a concern previously and again today that by requiring pilots who can't afford to install ADS-B to fly visually below clouds, that itself is problematic from a safety point of view. Is that something you've assessed?
Not to my knowledge. I can take that on notice.
Can you
and
take
have
it on
a look,
notice?
please, and see whether we have. I don't know the answer to that, Senator. I'm
So
sorry.
is there any possibility, and I emphasise the word possibility, that given the declining numbers, the alarming numbers in respect of general aviation in this country, that there may be consideration on CASA's part to consider stretching out the date for the implementation of ADS-B?
There are no plans at this stage to delay the implementation, but I've only been in place for a week. I'd like to look at the possibilities, but at this stage there are none. But I'll see.
And also the basis, and my final question is the follow-up, the basis of your assertion that it might be more expensive in a few years' time, which doesn't, that doesn't work for didn't work for flat screen TVs or other technology.
Different technology, but that's just an assertion in the same way as it's an assertion that it'll get cheaper, Senator, if I may, by AOPA.
And that generally happens with new technology.
It might.
Well, if you could get back to me on that. Thank you, Chair.